It's Thursday, the 20th of November 2020. Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Headlines, the business news you need in just 5 minutes. I'm Sean Aylmer. Today's headlines. Almost 180,000 Australians found a job last month in some of the most promising economic news this year. That's our main story. Plus, a very dark day for the Australian military. Prime Minister Scott Morrison promises to accelerate environmental goals and industrial relations changes. And which Australian gin maker is the best in the world? Australia's unemployment rate hit 7% last month, even though almost 179,000 jobs were added to the workforce. The strong jobs growth is welcome news, particularly given it occurred in the first month of tapering of the government's JobKeeper and JobSeeker programs. The figure demonstrates the resilience of the Australian economy as it emerges from recession. The underemployment rate, which measures people who want to work more hours but can't, fell to 10.4%, as the total monthly hours worked increased by 21 million hours. Victoria was the standout state as it emerged from lockdown. It created 81,600 new jobs, but there was broad-based growth across the nation, with 36,000 new positions in New South Wales, 25,000 in Queensland, 15,000 in Western Australia, and 9,000 in the ACT. The reason why the unemployment rate rose when so many new jobs were created was because the participation rate, people looking for work, surged. That too is a good sign because it shows people haven't given up on finding a job. Certainly the jobs market looks better than it did a few months back. Around 75% of the jobs lost have been regained, and the unemployment rate might not peak at previously forecast levels of more than 8%. In fact, some economists think it might be peaking right now. It's good economic news, notwithstanding it will take a while to get the unemployment rate back to something with a 5 at the front. Job creation is the key to the pace and extent to which the economy emerges from recession. In overseas news, the US election saga goes on and on. No one really thinks President Donald Trump will overturn the result, and Joe Biden will become president in January. But Mr. Trump is doing plenty to slow the transition, with recounts in Georgia and Wisconsin and lawsuits in Nevada. New COVID-19 infections in Russia passed the 2 million mark, and the number of daily deaths and infections hit new highs, while for the first time, Japan has reported more than 2,000 new cases in a 24-hour period. And finally, Brexit negotiations between the UK and Europe have been suspended after one negotiator tested positive. A deal needs to be struck within the next couple of weeks to have time to pass Parliament by the deadline on 31 December. Locally, in what can only be described as a tragic day for Australia, Inspector General of the Australian Defence Force, Paul Brereton, has recommended 19 Special Force soldiers be referred to the Federal Police to be prosecuted for war crimes, including the murder of 39 Afghan prisoners or civilians. Mr. Brereton labelled the alleged crimes as a disgraceful and profound betrayal of professional standards, and he laid the blame on several non-commissioned officers. The federal government will today unveil its long-awaited Retirement Income Review, which will give an insight into how people in the future should save for retirement and how they should spend it when they're retired. The review was established to look at compulsory superannuation, means-tested age pensions, and voluntary savings pillars in the almost $3 trillion system. Adelaide testing stations have been open continuously as the state tries to get ahead of the latest COVID-19 outbreak. The state has 35 active cases of coronavirus, 23 from community transmission, but it didn't report any new cases yesterday. In fact, across the country, there were 0 community transmissions. Prime Minister Scott Morrison appeared at the Virtual Business Council of Australia AGM last night and said he'll unveil new emissions projections before the end of the year, and has committed to reaching net zero emissions as quickly as possible after 2030. The PM has been a laggard on this one. Let's hope he sticks to his word. Insurance Australia Group requested a halt in trading yesterday following the New South Wales Court of Appeal ruling that pandemic exclusions in business interruption policies were invalid. It means that thousands of business disruption claims, mostly by small businesses, based on closures due to the coronavirus pandemic, could be paid out. That's great for bars, restaurants, retail stores and tourism operators, but it will cost insurers hundreds of millions of dollars. And finally, some very good news for a Friday. Four Pillars has been named the International Gin Producer of the Year for the second year in a row at the International Wine and Spirits Competition. Good on them. That's the Fear and Greed business headlines for today. There's more on all of these stories in today's full Fear and Greed podcast, as well as an interview about the global explosion in bicycle sales. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.